Toast! Three Brothers, similarly, is likely a sequel to Two Brothers from the same episode. Some of the other film posters are for Squirts, House Party 8, Full House the Movie, which looks more like a horror movie, and of course, Flaps, which looks like a movie about fat folds. Apparently the redhead with glasses background character who goes to high school with Morty has a twin, because in this scene, we see two of them in one shot, here and here. Right after Jerry's perception of Beth is scanned, a general screen appears on the screen.
Yo, what the?
On the screen, you can spot Bill. Yo,
what the fuck?
This isn't the first time the show's been.
Yo, it's Xbox Addictions. It's literally Xbox Addictions.
Drawing Tiny Rick made of himself in his hasty piece titled "Help Me, Morty and Summer" is actually a drawing of Doc from Justin Roiland's short "The Real Animated Adventures of Doc and Marty." As I'm sure most of you already know, this short and Doc and Marty are what would later become Rick and Morty.
Oh boy, Doc, I can't wait to shoot the first scene from my courtroom drama. I'm making it for regular mainstream television.
Not so fast, Marty.
During the Jan Michael Vincent trailer, there are a number of quadrants that need him. On the map shown, of the 16 quadrants shown, there are actually 2 quadrant H's. After the lady getting iced coffee disappears and iced coffee pours onto the ground, it actually slowly gets cleaned up throughout the episode. Later on, there's a Cuidado Piso Mojado or Caution Wet Floor sign next to the coffee machine. Finally,
I need Steve. Give me a Steve! Alright, here's a Steve.
One of the aliens watching interdimensional cable in the background, behind the hamster in a butt from Hamster and Butt World, enjoys the personal space lectures so much,
and then
the same movement along with
sorry, Sharks around much.
8. Personal space. 9. Personal space.
You're a good content creator and all.
And season 3's
I like your skin pack.
The Rick Shank Redemption were originally intended
but it's time
as
for
a
a
two-parter finale to the season.
Cake
Instead,
zombie.
The second half was pushed to season 3, and Dan Harmon wrote this episode, Look Who's Purging Now, to replace it as a filler episode in less than a day.
Every episode.
Lead on Purge Planet is
we will wear these skins.
Located in San Simeon.
Starting.
San Simeon.
Of your guys' choice. Vote in the comment below.
You can now see a hole in the garage with
starting. I'm gonna start with the wolf
episode when Summer accidentally sent Rick's device through the roof. As Bird Person leaves his conversation with Beth and crosses to the right, he passes right through a guest in the background's drink. The fact that it was cut out this way would mean that the background alien was likely one full layer, so a drink was put on top and cut out around the hands to appear as if it's in the alien's hand. I do this pretty much all the time in Photoshop for various videos. These were all of my favorite hidden details and references from Rick and Morty.
This is a placeholder name. It's not actually going to be OG.
Perhaps didn't include. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe to GameSpot Universe.
Bonus.
See you guys next time.
I, Amanda Green, with this contract.
Oh, you almost clicked it. Oh my, nobody cares about I mean, I don't smoke, but.
When you light up, you sign up. Don't let tobacco control you.
What? Wait, what? Wait, hold on.
It's a bit heavy.
What?
Have such morbid.
Wait, hold on. Let me. What is this? What is this?
Sign that reads, "This guy needs a plumbus." Really though, who doesn't? Number 11, the bleak.
I don't have a plumbus. Good. I mean, that's good. I don't, you know.
The idea that it's really more for the benefit of the Ricks than anyone else. The Mortys that come through the doors are all missing grandfathers for various reasons, and are likely only spending time there to keep sharp until another Rick needs a sidekick. The attitude that regards Mortys as a resource and not as human beings is encapsulated in the recycle sign at the back of the class, the one with a Morty face in the center. Something tells me that sign might be coming down after the regime change. Number 12, Beth's love of horses goes way back. The saga of Simple Rick might be the darkest part of a Pitch Black episode. We see that one of the only Ricks that decided to actually spend his time raising a child is not venerated for his deeds, but instead harvestbacks of good Rick's parenting are some of the only glimpses we have of that era. So it's worth taking a closer look. In this background, you can see Beth posing for a picture with a horse. This definitely lines up with her current line of work. It's somewhat heartening to see that Beth followed through with her dreams, even in a universe where she wasn't encouraged by a positive father figure. Then again, knowing the show, Beth probably became successful to spite Rick and to show that she doesn't need him around. Number 13, Cop Rick and Cop Morty's seatbelt switcheroo. We've hit on this detail a couple times already, but it's so specific here that we have to mention it. The Training Day Rick and Morty cops flip the script not only on the relationship and personality of the two characters, but their safety habits as well. Note that Cop Morty isn't wearing a seatbelt while Cop Rick is strapped in. If you have not noticed, up until now, Morty almost always wears a seatbelt inside vehicles, while Rick basically never bothers. I'd ask if evil Morty wears a seatbelt when he drives, but I think we already know the answer. Number 14, somebody tagged Get Swifty on the left side of this wall. There it is. That's it. There it is. Number 15, Evil Morty's Diabolical Plan. Everything came together at the end of this episode when that music kicked in and your jaw hit the floor. Even if you insist on telling everyone you saw it coming, it was still a fantastic capper to an excellent episode. But in straining to see the incriminating evidence just outside the airlock, you might have missed the fact that Trenchcoat Rick is among the fresh corpses. Remember, this is the same Rick that supplied the dirt about Evil Morty to Fired Morty in the first place. This hard evidence is the basis for a few emerging fan theories, the most convincing of which suggests that Evil Morty intentionally leaked the info about himself to Fired Morty, then killed him and Trenchcoat Rick to hide the evidence. Why do all of this? Well, Evil Morty needed the votes, and an attempted assassination could and did tip the scales. But how could Evil Morty possibly guarantee that Fired Morty wouldn't succeed in his assassination attempt? Well, there is the fact that Fired Morty is still a Morty, but we also know that Fired Morty shot Evil Morty with a gun in his left
This music
hand.
is beautiful.
Because Fired Morty used his offhand, he botched the murder. But wait, how do we know that Mortys are inherently right-handed? Well, Fat Morty did mention that he thought that he was left-handed Morty, implying that was supposedly the thing that set him apart from the rest of his kind.
I thought I was left-handed, Morty.
It seemed like a random joke at the time, but you never know what details could end up being important. For this theory to hold water, Evil Morty would have to have had an intricate, meticulous plot in place. Sounds exactly like the kind of thing Evil Morty would do, doesn't it? Almost makes you wonder if this was the plan all along. After all, it was during his first appearance that Evil Morty killed scores of Ricks, using all of their Mortys to power a horrendous machine. Once all the Rickless Mortys were freed, they took refuge at the Citadel, where they helped create an unstable power balance that led to Evil Morty's eventual re-election. But somehow listening to the
How loud is the music? I need it up louder. I want to cry.
Theory a bit more believable.
Where's the music?
Kind of mad if the conspiracy didn't turn out to be true. Moving on
The
to stuff
music is at 100%, yep.
Tons of callbacks, and the cold alien who collects species in a zoo is about as reliable as it gets. It worked for Guardians of the Galaxy, and it works doubly well in Rick and Morty. The show has featured dozens of extraterrestrial species and other fantastic beings, so it only makes sense for a galactic curator to include some aliens in its interstellar menagerie. Right off the bat, there's a couple of Mr. Meeseeks who can be seen for just a few frames while the collector passes Rick and Morty's cell. As no doubt you remember, Meeseeks aren't meant to exist more than a little while, so these poor guys must be in a lot of pain. Also visible for a brief moment are a few female Gazorbazorbs, who Rick and Summer met on one of their adventures. Squint hard and you can see the Tralforkians off to the side in a wide shot.
Whoa, that's what the dog look like. What's the dog doing?
You probably shouldn't. Like the Tralforkians, a lot of the collected aliens seem to have been present at Rick's party in the season 1 finale. The alien collector doesn't really seem like the type that would be thrilled if one of their subjects got away, but at this point it would probably pay off to just follow Rick around and capture him.
Oh, I know, yeah, baby, I'm not gonna kill you.
Number 17, Rick and Morty go to a real Mexican restaurant. It's not exactly Shoney's, but the Mexican restaurant featured in this episode is special for a different reason. Don Cuco is a real-life chain with a handful of locations in Southern California, and it appears, though, that the Don Cuco in this episode, where Rick dines with Zigzag Flupian, is ripped straight from the Don Cuco in Burbank.
Oh, God.
Here it is on Google.
Please don't get mad at me.
Fans speculate that since this location is near Cartoon Network,
you're the reason I couldn't have my cow!
Seems like a good
I hate
place to
glow
setting
squids.
for a last meal. Number 15, the Gravity Falls references are just getting out of control. Those who follow Rick and Morty closely, or those who've watched any of our previous videos about Rick and Morty, know that the show has a strangely close relationship with the beloved Gravity Falls. A couple Easter eggs in this season deepen that connection, starting with the very first scene. When Rick and Morty are running around the MC Escher-esque maze, they speed past a statue holding what looks to be an Illuminati eye, with eyelashes. Seems like a dead ringer for Bill Cipher, the dastardly villain from Gravity Falls. But hey, it could just be an unrelated Illuminati eye, right? Tons of TV shows and movies and American currency include that imagery. The probability of it being coincidence narrows a bit when you look closely at some of the memorable tube labels in Rick's lab. As Rick admits in dialogue, most of the labels are random gibberish. Pocket Poo on the left, but Bill C is undoubtedly a reference to Bill Cipher. In the same shot over to the right, we see Stanford. And no, it's not a nod to the prestigious school with an uneven football team. It's this guy. That's Ford from Gravity Falls, otherwise known as Stanford Philbrick Pines. As Rick admits in dialogue, most of the labels are random gibberish. Pocket Pooh on the left, but Bill C is undoubtedly a reference to Bill Cipher. In the same shot over to the right with school with an uneven football team, it's this guy. That's Ford. Bill C is undoubtedly a reference to Bill Cipher. In the same shot over to the right we see Stanford. And no, it's not a nod to the prestigious school with an uneven football team. It's this guy. That's Ford from Gravity Falls, otherwise
Oh my god, it's a village.
Philbrick Pines. At this point, I think
Don't know why it's in a skirt.
Number 19, a quick nod to DC Comics' Sandman. This was obvious to plenty of folks who likely spotted it in the episode's preview, but we'll cover it just in case you're not familiar. The gaunt figure who chases after Rick and Morty in pursuit of the Truth Tortoise is a clear send-up of the DC Comics Vertigo character Sandman, specifically the version created by Neil Gaiman, Sam Keith, and Mike Dringenberg. Though you'd be forgiven if you got a David Bowie Labyrinth vibe from the Upside Down maze. Number 20, the Moon Man might have been real after all. The Moon Man memory that we see early in the episode sets the tone for a lot of these vignettes, in that it's an extremely messed up short story that ends with Morty traumatized. But there might be a bit more to the Moon Man than what we see. In the episode, Morty thinks that he sees a man on the moon through a telescope. Nobody believes him, and yet the Moon Man shows up in his school as a new guidance counselor. After some stalking and an accusation, the Moon Man apparently kills himself in his home. Afterwards, Morty double-checks his telescope and sees a Moon Man-shaped smudge, implying the entire incident was imagined and a man was driven to suicide for nothing. It seems kind of like a thing you'd want erased from your memory, too. We could take that at face value and it would completely fit the tone of the show, but there are a few details in the story that point to a more sinister undercurrent. The Moon Man was real the whole time. For instance, check out the license plate on the Moon Man's car. SATF-1V3 seems like a call-out to Saturn V, the rockets that took the Apollo crew to the moon. Just after this, we see where the Moon Man lived, a house with a very special number. 237 is notably the number of the spooky haunted room with the old naked lady in The Shining. So that aligns with the Moon Man's creep factor at least. But this number is also important to conspiracy theory numbers, who believe that The Shining director Stanley Kubrick helped fake the moon landing, including the room number as a nod at the distance from the Earth to the moon.
Ooh, bread. I'll be taking that bread, gamers.
Hat territory, we might as well.
And I'll be also
Lastly,
taking...
let's look at that offending smudge again and compare it to Morty's original sighting. Notice anything? When we first see him, Moon Man has a shadow, whereas that smudge kind of looks like Moon Man does not. We may never know what really happened here, but I think we could all agree one thing. That unibrow is not to be trusted. Number 21, the Truth Tortoise's secret message. Rick and Morty's cold opens don't often have anything to do with the story as a whole, but rather offer a fun self-contained story that acts as an inciting incident that kicks off the plot proper. This episode was much the same, as we don't know a lot about the tortoise other than you shouldn't look
Yo, what's the dog do?
Everything, and that it sounds funny, almost as if it's talking backwards.
I could probably hit the iron golem, but I'm too scared to.
It's already reversed the Truth Tortoise.
Santa boy in armor. I'm not gonna hit the dude.
For clarity, that tortoise
I was getting some bread. Getting some bread. If you watch Job, you'll know that reference. Oh my god, you guys have a ladder? Oh my god.
Replaced with another person.
Compass.
Evidence of the theory hinged
Important stuff, baby. Oh yeah.
Miss him. It's an older reference, but it still checks out. Number 22. Why Summer got chewed out, at which time you're supposed to hear Paula's... Who's left to save the day and set everything right? According to this episode, it's Summer, who wanders into the final minutes with a creamsicle in her hand. Though she restores her brother and grandfather's memories and stops their grim double suicide, in return, Summer is chastised by her own family. To see that, we have to look at the Scenario 4 instructions that Summer follows to do Rick and Morty's hard reset. Summer seems to follow every direction to the letter, with the exception of number 10. She doesn't leave the room, and so for all of her trouble, all she gets is a verbal beatdown. Rules are rules, Summer. Number 23, Jerry's VHS memories. Though Jerry hasn't been a huge part of this season overall because of his divorce with Beth, you can always count on him for a solid post.
Yo, what the dog do?
He came through huge this week with the E.T. parody Gobo, which was apparently part of Jerry's mind blowers. Instead of a huge room filled with multicolored memory vials, Rick only went so far as to throw together a glorified VCR helmet for Jerry. Looking closely at the box's contents and flipping the image upside down, we get an idea of what's on Jerry's other tapes. On the left, you can see a purple tape marked Sleepy Gary, who we all know is Jerry's secret lover that turned out to be a memory parasite. On the far right, we can see the Apples campaign, a reference to Jerry's pride and joy as a marketer. It's not clear whether the tape contains Jerry's memories of the time he was in a simulation and had great success with the Hungry for Apples campaign, or if the tape contains the time Jerry tried to sell the slogan in real life and was literally fired for it. Either way, it's probably best that he let this one stay out of his brain and on VHS. And on to episode 9. Number 24, Cherished Memories of Mr. Poopy Butthole. As the center of many fan theories about alternate realities, Mr. Poopy Butthole demands a lot of attention whenever he shows up on screen. But so far this season, MPB...
Hey, I'm at level 69. Let's go, boys.
Last episode. That makes sense, though, since the initial...
I forgot how weird the cauldron was looking.
Apart from his name, was that he was a long-time friend of the family that was never seen up to that point. The Rick and Morty production team might have wanted to dispel the idea that we've been following different Rick and Mortys in different universes from episode to episode. Previously, fans had speculated that the sudden appearance of Mr. Poopy Butthole signified that his episode debut took place in a different reality than the one that we've been used to. But now, a second time this season, we see Mr. Poopy Butthole, his picture hung up on the fridge. Either this is a signal that most Rick and Mortys have their own Mr. Poopy Butthole, or that the animators are just fucking with us. And when it comes to the show, it could very well be both. Number 25, Brad is moving on. Whenever there's a crowd scene in Rick and Morty, you probably want to freeze frame and look around. This pays off at the restaurant scene, when who do we see but Brad, Morty's classmate and resident high school jock. Cue the blurry zoom in. Ignoring the mustache guy in the foreground, it would seem that Brad is there with the blonde woman on the right, which is interesting, since he's usually with Jessica.
It feels good to have our neighbors back. New season of The Neighborhood, Monday on CBS.
Brad and Jessica seem to have an on-again, off-again thing going on. They broke up a bit before Rick had his run-in with his toxic self, but by the end of that episode, Brad and Jessica seem to be on the mend. They could still be taking a break, or Brad is cheating on his girlfriend at a random restaurant. One thing's for sure, Brad probably didn't look at the Yelp reviews either. Number 26, Jerry's car looks just like Jerry. Well, it used to. Jerry Smith's car has been through the ringer before, but those were other universes, I think. After this week's episode, however, it seems to be gone for good, telepathically crushed into a cube. Jerry can probably find another one of those cartoony station wagons any place, and there's reason to think that he'll go out of his way to track one down, because they look just like him. Seriously, look at Jerry's shirt. The stripes match his station wagon, down to the wood paneling. It's one of those ideas that sounds silly, but once someone suggests it, you'll never be able to see anything else. Number 27, a couple loose ends. Maybe you guys could actually help us out here, because we usually try to leave things out if we're not 100% sure, but these ones seem like there's something. When Rick is going through Beth's old childhood gadgets, among the unbreakable bats and sounder racing sneakers is a fake police badge. It's only on screen for a second, but the weird part is that it's got a badge number, VA184. We know from previous episodes that numbers in the show often mean something significant. Part of this likely relies on the fact that the people behind the show know that people are going to dissect every frame, like, we are. But, we're stumped as to what VA-184 is a reference to. Is it supposed to be Highway 184 in Virginia, a reference to the Veterans Association? It could very well be nothing, but it comes right before location tracking stickers. These stickers have specific location tags. The production team had to know we'd plug those into Google Maps. But when you do, you get a spot off the coast of Africa. Either that's where Atlantis sunk, or the location is completely meaningless. Personally, we're hoping that this location will come back some days, just so we didn't waste our time. Number 28, Rick's stash of old machines and munchies. Okay, time for the good stuff. Real one this time. Just over a minute into the episode, Rick rummages through an old box for the magic chop.
Guess the L I'm thinking of. It starts with the letter L. Penguin? Everly is the letter L. It's a penguin, not a penguin. It's a penguin. If you say penguin one more time. Penguin.
This is where you watch your parents die. Oops, oops.
Hey YouTube, what's going on? This is I.
Hey YouTube, what's going on? This is I Talk.
300 days, or the wolf skin with the backbling pelt pack, the exo axes, the reflex blades, the axo skin is
Yeah, this is gonna be the end of the first episode.
with the backbling coral cowl, the axolotl, the lapis trident. All right, moving on, we have the Nevermore.